Right there.
Oh,
Got it. Okay. All right. Now I got to give it an official introduction. Welcome to Don Garland and Walter Driscoll. Not just this meeting and not just this, this is often said in non-duality, it's just this. But I think it's important to discuss all aspects of what can arise in this apparent existence that no one's living. But there's all kinds of things we can discuss. Why not all the things that can appear, all the things that can arise, all the thoughts, emotions, and feelings, sensations, the miraculous, the ordinary, it's all a part of this apparent existence. And it's all beautiful. So to me, not just this, it's all inclusive. It's unconditional love. And there's nothing that's not apart from what's appearing. There's no separation. People ask me if I can put non-duality in layman's terms or something like that. And I think its essence is there's no separation. There's no individuals. There's apparent individuals. There's apparent array of personalities, and it's amazing. It gives us this variety and excitement and beauty. It's things to write about. It's things to write poetry about and to be in awe and wonder about, and nature, but it's all mutually arising from no thing. There's no authority, there's no ultimate reality, there's no God. But it's all God. There is no God, there's just godliness. There's no source, but there's just this sourcelessness, amazing arising of life and all its challenges, difficulties, but it's coming from this no thing. And there's no one having a life. I'm not running my life, but there seems to be a life. And that's just endlessly fascinating for no one. So with that, I will pass it to Don Garland, please.
okay, yeah. So just to extend what you said, there can be problems that come with awakening as well, or can be perceived as such by others. Maybe in relationship as well, there can be that sense of just really being where you are, so that the rest of your life, the story disappears. So in a way, when you're with someone, when you're not. There's more energy absorption in what is present, and also in this whole sort of search for wholeness, it includes the psychological as well. It's hard to exclude that. It's impossible to, if you're looking for peace and fulfillment in life. So you cannot, we cannot exclude that or exclude energetic experiences, like the mystical stuff in, say, the Gospels. Jesus said, I didn't come just to bring peace, but a sword to set father against son, mother against daughter. Basically, withdrawing the projections onto the others instead of scapegoating the other. It's bringing us back to the shadow, to what's inside, to what's where the original projection belongs, which is in the home, very often the origins of life. So it's about getting in touch with that too, if in terms of wholeness. So if you like, but if you don't care about that, you don't care about that. So yeah, there's no rules here. Like if you're just here about concerned with the non-duality, that's absolutely fine. If you don't give a shit about psychology, great. Who cares? If you don't care about energetic experiences, fine. You know, so whatever you want to bring. If you want to share something, share. Yeah. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. So if you're on YouTube, please type your questions in the chat, or you can join the Zoom. I shared the link there. So jump right in. If anyone in the Zoom wants to ask questions, please jump right in. Don't be shy.
Hi. Hey, I've got a question.
Yes, please ask your question.
Okay,
Nice to
so
see you, Andy.
yeah, hi. So you were talking about God there. So I was reading the book of Genesis earlier today, specifically the passages about eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And it occurred to me that when Eve and Adam eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they begin to see. So I'm going to equate that with an awakening experience. Okay. So basically what they see is they see everything. So the questions that arise from that for me are, in the first instance, why would God forbid that? And then in the second instance, when they do eat the fruit of the tree, why does he then banish them from the garden? Why would that happen?
Is that a question for me or Don?
It's a question for anyone, really. It's kind of theological question. I'm just wondering.
Well, I just wouldn't put any, like, I don't think that any of that really happened. I don't think there's any authority. I don't think there's a God. I don't think there's I think it's all allegory. And
yeah, but so what's your understanding of that metaphor then, or of that allegory?
You know, I don't honestly know.
Okay.
I'll pass the mic.
Oh yeah, I mean, so you can question that, of course. Why was it forbidden? But also they were already in paradise, so paradise was lost. The knowledge of good and evil, I mean, obviously there was a temptation, wasn't there? So the serpent tempts Eve, and then Eve tempts Adam. So there's that beginning. So the serpent, i.e. Satan, who's in translation the accuser, the one that always creates the scapegoat, always points in the direction of this is what's wrong, this is what somebody's doing evil or whatever. So no, in a sense they didn't do anything wrong, but okay, so it shows the origin of desire on one level, and another level you could say maybe going with like someone like Alice Miller is like, yeah, tell God to fuck off, you know, he forbid that, and then he said, we know that prohibition creates desire, so he set it up to fail. So it was set up to fail. Paradise was lost, and non-duality is the seeing beyond good and evil. So I don't know, that knowledge of good and evil, obviously, for me, that I would say that knowledge in the self and in a kind of more relative sense is just is about getting in touch with the shadow stuff, or, you know, what's good and evil, you know, what is right, what's wrong, which is on a feeling level in the body. But what is about ultimately, I don't know, it's a, you know, like, well, where are you coming with that? You are you kind of, because you say that God.
Well, I'm wondering why the people who wrote the book of Genesis wrote it in that way, because there does seem something contradictory about it. So I mean, if you create the heaven and earth, therefore, if you create everything, and if an awakening experience puts you in touch with everything, why would the creator want to forbid that or prevent that? That doesn't make sense. And then why would you be punished because you attain that knowledge?
Okay, well, if you're saying on that level, well, of course, there's no reason why the whole idea of punishment in that. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, but people take this seriously, don't they? So
yeah.
Eve is seen as the bad woman. You know, the evil is seen as to do with Eve rather than to do with God. So it's trust of authority, isn't it? Like, it could be seen as that, like, because people accept that story if they're Christian, unquestionably, very often, don't they? But why would you create division? Maybe that whole idea of making life interesting, because, and why is it? Or why do you say it's about awakening? I mean, who knows what it's about? It's paradise.
Oh, I don't know. That's an assumption. That was the assumption.
Yeah. Okay.
Making. But
Well,
I mean,
they're in paradise. I mean, you know, assume it's oneness. Yeah. I mean, banish them from the garden. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question. What the fuck does they do?
because see, Don, you sometimes talk about integration, which is like bringing it back down to like an everyday living experience and having to integrate it. And you talk about like struggles of everyday life as well. So I kind of getting that. But a similar thing happens in other creation myths as well. It's not just Judaism and Christianity. There is that kind of thing about death and destruction as well.
Well, it shows, I mean, it shows how desire is created as well, isn't it? The contagious nature of desire. So, you know, the Satan affects Eve and Eve affects Adam, but society figures, you know, focuses in on Eve. And but yeah, that for me, that the biggest thing really is the fact that we hand over to authority in that, like, nothing to do with separation. And I think too much emphasis is put on non-duality in the Bible, like, as well, as if that's what it's all about, or, you know, from the non-dual sort of side of things, which I don't think it's all about that personally. And, you know, not all theologians do think that either. So, yeah. But division, I mean, it's fun, isn't it? It's fun being human. It's kind of
yeah, exactly. I mean, why should desire be identified as an evil thing?
Well, desire is always a touch, you know, seen it, you know, suffering because the attachment, isn't it? But desire, I mean, I think after awakening, there's less attachment to what is desired. So it's easier to let go of that, or when something is, maybe not even to let go of it, but when something is gone, it's kind of easier to be with that, I think. Whereas there seems to be more clinging before that, perhaps, you know. But desire is good. Yeah, it's without that, I mean, it's what drives us forward, right? I mean, some people aren't even in touch with that. They've never learned to desire because they weren't allowed to have anything in their own right, because it was all about the parent. It was all about, you know, the caregiver. It wasn't about there wasn't the space to develop that. It was never about what do you want. So yeah, desire is good, and it's all sorts. It depends, but I think it's good. Yeah, you know, but too much, you like, it's just like anything really, isn't it? Too much, because it's like too much desire is suffering, and I think everybody knows that. And but I mean, a lot of therapy or like psychoanalysis is about trying to get past all the conflicts in the way of desire. So like some of those conflicts may be morality, and they may be like, oh, I should do this or I shouldn't do that, rather than I want it, you know, just following your desire. That would be very Lacanian, which kind of focuses on desire, like following your desire, like being the good thing, the desire that's in you, because but our desires are never our own. That's another thing. So they're always imitated. We do not desire. We have instincts, but we do not desire on our own terms. We think we do, but we don't. It's imitated. Kids, you get a little kid playing with a toy, the other kid wants to play with the toy, and suddenly the toy becomes very important, and the kid starts crying because the toy becomes this big thing. So we learn to desire through the other, and ultimately what we want is the other's desire. And the sort of theories of desire, to be desired. And so it's, yeah. So what's wrong with desire? Absolutely fuck all, but it's very complicated, isn't it? When you start talking about it, it's good. It stops us from getting stuck, doesn't it? Getting stuck. There's nothing worse than desirelessness. There's nothing worse than depression, when, you know, all you're feeling is muted and there's nothing to move you. Everything that motivated you collapses, and there's just a kind of stasis, which is painful as hell. So yeah, we need it, but you know, I don't know. I'm just waffling on.
No, it's okay. Just interesting expression. As painful as hell. There's another idea. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you.
I think we have a hand raised. Andy, do you have any more questions? Was that it? Okay, Richard. I think Richard had his hand raised. No, Richard.
I hope you can hear.
There you go.
My internet connection is a bit clunky. Am I coming through? Okay. Am I coming through?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Oh, Walter's frozen. Oh no.
I am.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Oh.
I thought, no, disaster.
Is Richard there? No.
My internet connection is clunky. Can you hear me?
Yes, a little bit. You're in and out, but go ahead, ask your
Can
question, Richard.
you hear
There you
me?
are. Yes, I can see you too.
Yeah. It's
Go
about
for it.
connection night. What you the sound I can't really hear. What you were talking about the Eden myth. I think one way of looking at it was paradise, this blissful peace, if you like. And the tree of knowledge is when you start to identify with the thing, become attached to it, and so you move from that non-duality into attachment. That's my understanding.
The attachment's very nice. It can be very nice. Depends what you're attached to.
Is there any more there, Richard?
I don't know if you
It's very broken up.
Yeah, I can't really. Sorry, your connection's bad.
Maybe we could type
I'm going to
it.
ask one. I'm going to ask one from the chat here.
Yeah.
Okay. Geez, a lot of these I can't understand. Okay. The end of experiencing. What do you think about it? The end of experiencing. Don, your thoughts?
The end of experiencing, well, okay, but basically that's a kind of non-dual saying, right? Okay, but there's no experiencer, but experience continues. So in a way, like there's nothing changed. I mean, and yeah, there's just no one experiencing all of this. So yeah, I mean, it's one way of putting non-duality, isn't it? The end of experiencing, the end of thinker, the end of, yeah. But yeah, I have nothing really to add to that yet. It's
Well, there's just never was an experiencer. There's always only seemingly this experience. I don't know.
which makes experience kind of nicer in some ways, even though there is.
Like there's no one in it. It's just, there's no one having it. It's just all there is.
But there's a richer element to it, I think. Once there's realization, which I know a lot of people say there's nothing to be realized, whatever, but there is a shift, an apparent shift, and it is richer, but there's nothing to be gained from it. I think that's the downside of it, because there's nothing you can't collect experiences, you can't gain anything from them. It does. I think there is a sense of adding to yourself with experience before that, like, so something good adds to you, maybe something bad detracts, but there's this kind of, not a flattening out because that sounds horrific, but just like, it's just, I don't know, I think because it's not feeding anything, so, and there's no hooks into it, so it's just organic kind of life, it's just kind of living itself. Something like that.
Yeah. All right. Next question. While there's no one to know what this is, the question of why would God do this begs the question, assuming there is a God. Great intro. Love you both. Hearts. Okay. There's no one to know. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't have anything on that. Can you ask, what do you think about non-duality as an excuse for unenlightened people not wanting to take responsibility for their lives?
Well, who wants to take responsibility for your life? I mean, non-duality, what's it got to do with it? Like, I don't want to take responsibility for my life. That sucks, man. But you're talking about spiritual bypass. I suppose that was the traditional kind of word for it. I mean, it's not, I don't think people consciously seek that, and it can be a bit of a bypass, as in it was in my case, in the sense of I was a wee bit too blissed out to look at certain things, but not that I would have looked at things. Things come up when they come up, or they don't come up. So it's not really as simple as that either. There's a kind of like, when things are seen, they're seen. But yeah, you could hang out or maybe you're awake, and living alone and thinking, oh my God, I got it all sorted, because it's only really in relationship where you really rub up against someone else's edges. And so then you kind of know how integrated you are or not. That sort of thing kind of brings stuff to light, and maybe brings things forward. So, but yeah, I don't bypass, the word spiritual bypass can be used also to scapegoat others too, and I've seen that too. So it's an interesting one, and it can only be seen obviously in retrospect, because once it's been seen through, it's been seen through. But there's always going to be, it's not because it doesn't touch, it does touch the psychology, it does touch the neurosis, stuff can fall away, but it may not touch the pattern. So, but you can't bring someone necessarily to see the patterns if they're not ready is the wrong word, but if that's not, that's got to come from them. And anyway, something like that.
All right. That's interesting. Bypass used to scapegoat people. Is what you
It
said.
can be. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, I've seen that because it's another way of like, I am the authority. I can tell you what's going on for you. And I've seen this sort of stuff happen. It can happen in like workshops, psychological workshops or whatever, where there's authority. Only at the end of the day, only you can know what's going on for you. And I think that's after awakening, it's very, very difficult for, there is no authority really in someone's awakening, not really, because they are so different. So if you're absolutely blissed out and there's no psychology, there's just no psychology. There's nothing you can say about that or do about that. And it may not ever come back as well. So it's like who can judge that? There is no one really but yourself. You're on your own, I think, after awakening to a certain extent. You really are. But is it the same as being told that you're disassociated, say, because you're blissed out? It is a form of dissociation. It could be seen in that light, but the word dissociation, of course, is seen as a pathological slant on things. So bliss is a good thing. Feeling good is probably a really healthy state to be in. I think we can all agree on that. Like, but long term, it's probably better to be integrated and blissed out.
Yeah. I think either myself or somebody else was accused of disassociating earlier today.
All right.
What do you think? What do you think about that? Like if you say there's no one here and you're talking about non-duality and whatnot, and somebody will say it's just a way of disassociating.
Well, I mean, it could be seen as that, couldn't it? It could be used defensively, of course, like anything can. I mean, but no, I mean, in your case, yeah, but
well, the comments were coming in. I didn't know who they were directed at.
I don't
Probably
think
both of
it
us.
has the power it had. Like, I mean, I think a lot of the myth around it is falling away, or maybe just on the radical non-duality. I don't know, because it's sort of like, I mean, there still is a lot of spiritual stuff out there, isn't there? Like the things that are associated with lack of desire, lack of fear, lack of, beyond the normal. And that's the laughable thing. And I think that's part of not just the realization, but the realization plus the integration is just the collapse of hierarchy and the collapse of anyone who could know that and anyone who could judge that. And so it's a lonely place. I think it's a really lonely place, this still, because it still is an abiding state. They use the word state, but we all know what I mean by that. It is, it's still a rare enough occurrence where I think you do better. Glimpses are more favorable, but yeah, because it's outside of what's kind of understood as yet. Like, there's a lot of superstition around it. There's not really a lot that's intelligible that's said about it, really. And people don't know. There's a lot of the unknowns. People project a lot of shit onto it. And like they do onto so much else. But so that still has to go. There still is that projection that has to go, like, which is the freedom. I mean, that's part of the massive part of the freedom in this life, is getting rid of that, because that'll keep you stuck.
All right, we have more questions. And if there's anyone in the Zoom, please just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll go to the YouTube. We have, oh, hello. Go right ahead, Betty.
Good. It was great that Izzy, the Izzy thing, that was great. I only caught the end of it, but it was excellent. And hi, Dawn. I just wanted to say, yeah, that that's a wonderful thing, whatever you're doing with the integration, because I mean, you know, for me, myself, I'm out of I'm retired, I'm elderly, I'm out of the working situation. And, you know, it's just, I can't imagine like some of the young people what they're having to deal with when they have to like walk into the office and that kind of thing. Because, you know, I would never tell anybody, like any relative or anybody, anything about the message. And I was meeting this woman occasionally. We would walk together, and she wanted to teach me Tai Chi and sun salutation, all this stuff she was always doing at this place where we go to. And she just one day, she was like, well, you know, she caught up to me. I was walking. She's like, what are you listening to? And I just turned the phone around, and it happened to be Andreas.
Mhm.
And I guess she went home and Googled him. And she's really kind of like doesn't even want to look at, you know, kind of, I saw her, I was coming up the street, and she like turned the other, you know. So it's really, it's a message that is just, it's just not of, you know, for this world, even for the, you know, for this day and age. You think people are open and they want to know. And I can't imagine being a you know, a young person and having this realization, however it happens, because for each person, I'm sure it's different. I would assume it's different. Or whatever, you talk about Kundalini too, or the Kundalini rising, you know, and not having somebody to bounce it off. You know, when I had my glimpse, and I'm not going to talk about it, it was like 15 years ago, and I was still working. I didn't tell anybody because I knew I would get fired. The job I had a big responsibility to, you know, with children and stuff. I would have been fired. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my best friend, the social worker. I told one person. I told my sister, because I figured she's not going to go out there. She's going to be like, oh, try to protect me from getting, you know, because I thought I was having a nervous breakdown. So, you know, it's great that you're putting yourself out there. And I mean, what are you doing this for free? I mean, for, you know, it's like, I mean, I know there's the PayPal donation. I'm going to get to that later. But, you know, you guys are doing, you know, I mean, Walter is like exposing everybody to all this like really interesting stuff. And you're putting yourself there, you know, a PhD in psychology, just like, how can I help you? It's so wonderful. And I just wanted to say that, get that, you know, just put that out there. Thanks.
Well, the time, I mean, it must have changed as well, like in the last 15 years, but I was thinking also, if you can tell people and they don't know, they won't hear it. Like a lot of the time they won't hear it, will they? You know, it just kind of,
What? Oh, goes over their head. They don't absorb it. You mean?
Some people it goes like that. I mean, but I think that in the last 15 years, people are more receptive than they were. Like maybe it has gone more mainstream. Maybe with Eckhart Tolle and stuff. I think he was out in 2012 or something, or was it before that? No, he was out before that, wasn't he? 20.
Oh no, Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, but I'm talking about the radical. I'm talking about radical.
Oh yeah, the radical.
Eckhart Tolle. Everybody was radical.
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
don't bring that around.
But he was like, you know, so few people went to the meetings, you know, when he started out, and then suddenly, boom, you know, like a lot of people were showing up, and so it's just increasing, isn't it? The receptivity to this is just getting greater and greater. But I know what you mean. There's still like, you can make that assumption, and then you move in certain circles, and there's just an absolute disinterest, isn't there? And I think still most of society is still just not interested or not open to it.
Society is from what I see, most of society is run by, you know, some kind of Christianity, Judaism. There's a whole society that's built around God, and don't threaten it. There's no God. You know, I mean, Christmas, Easter, Passover. People are like, well, maybe it's just here. I don't know. Maybe it's different in London. Maybe it's different. I'm sure it's different in the city too. Maybe I don't know though. I don't know.
Well, gives us a
But-
holiday, doesn't it? Christmas, nice food.
Yeah, like food. Yeah.
Makes up the
And
year.
Easter, all the candies.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
chocolate eggs. I'm not going to
I
complain
love the
about
candy. The Peeps and the Cadbury eggs. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. But when the fellow before was talking about, getting kicked out of paradise, whatever, I heard this one comedian, he said, he goes, damn, she couldn't tempt me with an apple. It'd have to be a cinnamon roll or something.
Okay. Oh.
Anyway, thanks for listening and thanks for doing this. It's just so great. I mean, I just really.
Thank you, Betty.
Thanks, Betty.
We appreciate it. So we have a question. Who's Don's favorite speaker on this subject?
What, my favorite speaker?
They want to know who your favorite speaker is.
Well, it's obviously Walter. My favorite speaker is going to be someone I like, right? I don't have any favorite speakers anymore. I think I go through phases. Like I don't watch the videos anymore. I mean, initially it was Eckhart Tolle who got me onto this before, the event. I like people like Robert Saltzman, who's got a little bit, like something interesting to say, maybe. I like Tim Freak because he's done something interesting the way he thinks. He's thought something out for himself, I think. So sort of, and he looks at the other stuff as well, maybe the sort of NDEs, and he's really thought about it, really researched it, what he's done. So yeah, I mean, I don't really like radical non-duality. I can't listen to it. It's so boring. I can't listen to any of it. Like, see Richard Sylvester, and I don't know. I don't know that
Listen
many
to your
persons.
It sounds like you listen to your friends.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you? Who else do you listen to?
Yeah. No, but that's sweet. I really like that.
Who do you like? Were you interviewing?
Yeah, same thing. Well, I usually listen to people I interview. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying, are we discussing non-duality in context of region or social affairs?
No idea what that means.
I'm not sure either, but they're in the Zoom if you want to join in and ask in person. Religion, they want to know if it has to do with religion.
Does non-duality have to do with religion?
I think
Hey, hi,
Oh, here we
hi,
go.
Bonnie.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
doing good. I'm Sanket. I joined from Dubai. I randomly searched for the events on the meetup and I found this event and I just joined just to know what kind of things are
Do you
going
want to
on.
turn on your camera?
Yes, just give me
Yeah,
one.
just that would be helpful.
Yeah.
If not, it's fine. No pressure, but
Just give me 5 minutes, maybe I will.
you know the little icon with the camera
Just one.
next to the microphone.
Yeah, just give me 5 minutes. I will try.
Yeah. But go ahead. In the meantime, oh, okay. He muted himself. All right. Well, let me ask another question in the chat in the meantime. Do you think conventional religion is, in a sense, a consolation prize for those who can't or won't get enlightenment? Are monasteries just support groups for failed saints? I don't know what that means. How about you?
Well, it's easy to do it. Are they? I mean, okay, so well, the origin of religion was sort of like, well, that's a mythology, isn't it? So the death of the god, or the scapegoat, the one that was killed, like Dionysus, and then the one that's killed brings peace in the community, so becomes a god. So we see that in all mythology, don't we? And then in religion, it was kind of the opposite. So in a sense, so Jesus was killed, he was scapegoated, he was killed. It brings peace, but unlike mythology, which was written from the perspective of the people who condemned, the Gospels were written from the people who saw that he was innocent. So there's that one distinction. It's from René Girard. So, but I don't think it's all about, you could see it as the evolution of man's view of God, or the evolution of God as Tim Freke would see it, maybe. But yeah, ultimately there's nothing separate from you. So if there was a God, you know, or something like that, something taken in archetypal form, perhaps, you would be that, you know, there's no separation. So there's nothing higher than you. So there is just this oneness. So, but yeah, there's some gems in the Bible if you want to look at it that way. You may not look at it that way, but it depends what you get from it. But yeah, a lot of people dispense with this stuff. Pretty much everyone wants reality as being seen. And yeah, and it's seen very, very differently after like a near-death experience, where God may be experienced or may not be experienced. Oneness will be experienced, probably. But the dogmatism tends to dissolve after that, because but you know, churches are nice places to sit in. I like sitting in a church sometimes. It's quite nice. There is something, the awe of a building, you know, I think a lot of people find some sort of peace in that as well, like nature. There is something beautiful about that. And I love the Jesus story, even though like, I don't know like what that is, but some people, yeah, the Christ consciousness, who knows what that is? Maybe it's nothing, maybe it is, who knows? We don't ultimately know what this is, basically, at all, you know. So, you know, I'm trying not to stray too far. I'm not sure.
Okay, the next question is, Walter, can you ask Dawn what her opinion would be on biologist Richard Dawkins, a highly successful man who believes we're all simply just human beings with, in fact, free will?
No, you can't. Free will. No, I don't have a lot to say about free will. Ultimately, it's, you know, maybe we do on some level, who knows? But the seeing of the nodule is saying that it's just all kind of happening spontaneously without anyone doing that. But in a sense, yeah. So, yeah, I have nothing to say about Dawkins. I've never read him. I have some idea what he's on about, but no, free will question. I mean, yeah, it is difficult. I mean, anything, you sort of think of anything that happens, or that you, I don't like to kind of talk about that aspect, because I think people sort of go into an inertia thinking there's nothing they can do, or that they cannot, you know, be author of their lives. There is a sense in which you can be an author of your life if you know what to do, and or you know, if you want to make something happen. Obviously, there are ways of orientating yourself. You know, it's just the obvious. Nothing changes in that respect, you know, but it's just seen that there's no one doing anything. I think that's the truth of it, really. It's just no one doing anything. So it's kind of beyond free will, or known free will is pretty much. What do you think, Walter? Because you put it like that, didn't you?
Free will.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, the free will question, I just answer it the same way, that there's no one to have free will. Choices are made, decisions are made, actions happen. I'm making choices and decisions all the time, moving, big decisions, that seem to impact my apparent life. And they feel important at the time, it's like this, it's not like a lot of all that changes, but there's obviously no one is making that choice. The choices just are made, just the thoughts arise, just the decisions get made, the actions happen. But there's no denying there's an apparent life here, or there's an apparent stress at times about major decisions and things that are happening that seem stressful. And somebody was asking a question about perpetual happiness. I don't know if I skipped over that. I don't see it anymore, but it's not like that. It's not a bliss, an unending. There's no one here to be in unending bliss. It's not about experience. I don't think non-duality has anything to do about a quality of experience improving or getting worse, or it's just saying all there is this, this what seems to be happening. And it could be a stressful decision. And that's what's happening. I don't know how else to answer it, but free will, there's no one to have free will, but there seems to be an apparent person that makes decisions and choices.
And I wouldn't let that negate anything. Like, if you pray, if there's the power of something like heartfelt prayer, I mean, that's there's correlation between that and the energetic experience and you may, and if you articulate your desire, like, I'm not into manifesting per se, but there's something about articulating your desire to yourself or clarifying what you want. There is a power in that. And I'm not saying it's a magical power, but sometimes it can seem that way. So I'm not, none of this is negating any of that. And, so yeah, do what, I think it's important to say that because people fall into just sort of almost like the antithesis of superstition, some kind of weird, closed, almost like shut down to anything that's metaphysical, like, which you can get back again, which is great. It's like, fuck you to non-duality. You can get that back again, because there's a magic there too, and there's synchronicity. There's all sorts of stuff that can happen that I certainly am not going to deny, because it would be a denial of my experience,
All right. How about I like the way this guy phrases this question. It's always, Walter, can you ask Don's opinion on people who are into self-inquiry? Who am I?
Self-inquiry. I always find that bewildering. I never really understood what people get out of it. I do understand that some people get a lot out of it and a lot of clarity out of that. I just find it like a kind of weird gaslighting. Like, oh yeah, I can see what you're saying. I'd go away kind of pretending to myself that I understood something that I didn't. So yeah, for me, it was a bit of a kind of head fuck. So yeah, but for some people it's not. So I won't universalize in that. And maybe there'll be an aha in that. I'm not I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's not one size fits all. This, you might get something out of it and you might enjoy it and you might get a glimpse or something like that. Who knows what would happen? But what do you think of self-inquiry? It seems to fall in the hands of some dodgy people. Like, not always. There's some lovely people do it, but I think because it is, because there's so much projected on to the one at the front, like it's an easy one to play with, really. But but yeah, it's definitely not always the case. Just sometimes.
I did some I don't know. I did my own sort of self-inquiry. I never followed Ramana Maharshi in particular. I think I went more Nisargadatta Maharaj and other people like Ramesh Balsekar. But I remember thinking about, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. It was more of a negation sort of thing. And just try to locate where is the I, where is me located, and not being able to find it, you know. So it's interesting exercise, but in the end, I don't know, it felt like a spontaneous realization, if you will, but at the same time, one of the comments I was getting earlier too was about, saying there was no path, but yet you followed a path, or, it's like seeking doesn't lead to anything, but when you tell your story, there was some obvious seeking there. So I don't know. What do you think about that as far as a realization, or how to get there, or things you can do to help
Um,
on the path?
well, no, I mean, I think a path is yeah, I don't believe that a path is going to lead to this. It may lead to an insight, probably more of a psychological one. What retreats can give rise to glimpses and all sorts of experiences for sure. But I think when it just falls away, like the eye falls away, it falls away when it falls away. And it can happen in mysterious circumstances. It can happen very, very beautifully and very artfully. Like it can seem very contrived, like, God, who wrote the book, The Black Butterfly? Like a lot of people, it will be just, something, things line up, events line up, and then there's the boom experience, the falling away of the self, whatever. Like, so there can be a lot of synchronicity around it, which makes it seem very, almost like a path, like in a sense. But no, I mean, because it's seen there's no one who can do anything. So how can you extinguish that? I mean, there's nothing to extinguish anyway, it's an illusion. So I don't know, but who knows, but it's, but yeah, there is something about those environments. I think if you're going into like a retreat, it must be awful to hear that and sort of think, well, I'm wasting my time, but glimpses can be had, all sorts. I mean, I don't know. I want to say something consoling, but anyway.
Well, Betty has her hand raised. Go ahead, Betty.
Yes. Okay, you can hear me. I just wanted to ask, like, Dawn, in your experiences with these people reintegrating after an awakening or the shift or whatever you're calling it, did you talk about energetic things happening for the individual? Is there an energy shift too?
Well, not in the sense of an esoteric kind of sense. Like, my experience would be there's an energy shift in a kind of more normal sense of like it's almost like they realign to the right path, to their life path, like what they wanted to do or find their way forward, and the momentum is kind of increased. So it's like there's a kind of breakthrough, and they just, like find their way to wherever, presumably if they'd gone back in time and done what they wanted to do, they would have done that. So there can be that's what I've seen, and it's what I've seen here as well. Like it just seems that it's easier to self-actualize then. That's the thing that seems to be in paralysis. Like it's just people are stuck, and almost like, but they don't know they're stuck because it's not felt like that, or maybe they're living a different life or someone else's life in a sense, like if they're introverted, they're living an extrovert life. If they're, maybe they're a barrister and they want to be a painter, or music, whatever the hell it is. It's just, it seems that life seems to find where it should be. And of course it moves forward. But I mean, some of the energy of that as well is things like repressed anger, because anger is a great motivator. If it's something that's been suppressed for years, that can be what gives you courage to move forward to, or, you know, or grief. Maybe it's grief. There has to be something let go of. Maybe it's that. It depends in every case, whatever it is. Probably both. It can be grieving, angering.
That sounds very positive. It's, I mean, there's no positive, no negative, but it sounds very positive. Yeah, people like really like finding their you know, what they want, and it just sounds so much positivity in that.
Yeah, it's almost like your
Wow.
life purpose. If they're, you know, I'm not saying there is a purpose, or but you know, you get that sense when you're doing what you want to do, or, you know, and for some people that's just not possible. They might be stuck in something. There's just more insight in that. Like some of us it's just too much of an ask because we've been too compromised when we were young. We're caught in things, or maybe we're just caught in a catch-22, or maybe we're, you know, stuck in some horrible, you know, there's so many horrible situations. There's just no way out of it.
Yeah.
But at least you can see it.
Right.
At least you know what you're in, and there's some consolation in that. I think it's better to know, and you can approach it differently, and you can protect yourself better, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So what about the Kundalini? Do some people, I guess, who are doing the Kundalini yoga or whatever, after the shift, is that the cause of the rising?
No, I mean, it seems spontaneous as well, that like a Kundalini awakening, maybe again out of a shock, out of grief. I know someone who's linked it to like postmenopause, or in women, there can be, yeah, so you can maybe, there's certain things could happen to sort of unleash that, but it can come out in absolutely nowhere. So if some people are susceptible after a Kundalini awakening, if they go to something like Kundalini yoga, it will raise it, like just like a meditation can raise or deepen the experience of oneness, or, you know, because I think for all of us, doing any of those activities can bring about more inner peace. So it's going to shift your internal state. It's going to change things. But some people I remember one guy I knew, he was awake, who did Kundalini yoga, and it was just wild. His experience was like, I don't know how rare that is, like, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's any studies done on Kundalini yoga, like, but I suppose because there's a lot of breath, I mean, it's a lot of focus on the breathing as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine it does raise it. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
I think I saw him. I think Walter interviewed him. I was freaking out.
What?
It was wild over the Kundalini, with the Kundalini.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
Hamish.
yeah.
Hamish, right?
Hamish. Yeah. His is pretty interesting. So it's an interesting movie. And quite an intense, and it's just continual experience, pretty much. Yeah, at will, not at will. I don't know, but it's just there all the time. So that is an unusual one. It's an exciting one, but you know,
Yeah.
but once it starts, it doesn't stop. But it can have, you know, it evens out, and then you can have periods where there are clusters of experiences, and then, you know, it's just fun. I mean, it's more than just fun. That's to trivialize it, but it is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cheap entertainment, like it is.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
I
Thanks.
think it's more fun than like drug-induced experiences. More, certainly, personally, I find it more interesting than psilocybin, or, you know, any of those experiences. It seems much richer.
Wow.
But that's, I mean, that could vary. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself, so I don't know for other people. So, you know.
Gee whiz. Woof.
Mm.
Have you ever done that ayahuasca?
I did it once, but it didn't work. It didn't do anything for me, so
Oh. Didn't work.
didn't seem to do
Why?
anything. No effect whatsoever. I don't know.
Oh my God.
What about you? Have you done it?
No. I'd be
You're on the
afraid
rush
to
hour.
do it. I might not come back.
All right, okay, fair enough.
But I mean, now I hear you did. But I heard well, I don't know if you have the show there, the Housewives of New York City. Was it the New York City Housewives? No, the New Jersey Housewives. They all went off and did it somewhere. I forget where.
Right.
But anyway, I don't, I got enough to hang on to. I don't want it.
Okay. Anyway, it tastes like
Well-
shit. That's all you need. It tastes like shit. It's not nice. You know.
I have a question in the chat. Dawn, how does one get out of a seemingly hopeless situation?
Well, sometimes you don't. I mean, and then and sometimes you do. And like you're presumably you're in a hopeless situation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be writing that, or someone in one seemingly. I mean, sometimes people just can't seem to build up the courage or whatever. But I mean, there are certain things you can do, and it's good to talk stuff through and to look at from different angles, and whatever it is that you're not in touch with, maybe emotionally. You need to look at the whole thing, what's going on with you internally as well, and what you're in. I think it depends. Like, if you give me more, I could stay more. Like, but if you're caught in catch-22s and stuff, like, I mean, that's traumatizing. Over time, you're going to get more traumatized. So it's good to try at least look at resolving it. But some people just resign themselves as well. But yeah, I don't know. Say more if you want to say more about that. Like, sure,
You can say more in the chat if you like. Yeah, you can, if you feel comfortable saying more about a hopeless situation.
I mean, sometimes an awakening can be enough, like where someone just leaves a situation, right? They just walk away from something that seemed impossible, whatever it was. You've heard the story. Someone packs up their bags and they just fuck off. They just drive away or whatever, or maybe just the courage comes from nowhere, or maybe desire leads you elsewhere. I mean, there's all sorts of intervening factors, but there's stuff you can do as well internally. It depends what it is, because, as you know, but yeah. But definitely don't the worst thing is to be isolated in that, because that's going to be traumatizing as well. There's nothing worse than being stuck. I mean, even that may not be within your a choice, because some of those situations are isolation's part of the package, right? So, but yeah, I mean, there's always stuff that you can do, but I'm not saying it's a guarantee out, but I've got out of some, got into others. There's always new places to get caught. But yeah, sometimes the impossible situation just goes and you're like free, and it's fucking amazing. It's really amazing, I've had that happen a couple of times, I'm not going to say any more about that. But
Well, there hasn't been any further comments since that. Anybody in Zoom want to ask a question? Don't be shy. Oh, here we go. My job is far too stressful. Working as a teacher in the Midlands, ex-coal mining communities with highly traumatized children. I have lots of money saved and want to buy a motor home and get away.
Whoa. You got the money saved? Well, you got the money. Sounds like there's a lot of desire there, that's for sure. Like, yeah. All right, but there's still something in the way of that. I don't know what your home situation is, or but yeah, you've been saving. So I guess there's a lot of fear. Fear is like, it keeps you clinging on, like, so, but sometimes the desire is just stronger than the fear, or the anger cuts through that, or, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like just wants to get away from it all. Jump in a motorhome and go.
Just keep
everything.
going. But sometimes you bring it with you, but you don't want to bring it with you. Like, but sometimes it change. It can. I mean, it can. You know, that's all it takes sometimes. But of course, you bring your psychology with you, don't you? And you can recreate the patterns. But yeah, I'm not saying don't go and do that. I mean, yeah, I mean, save the money. I don't know. See what pushes you or pulls you, or I don't know. Definitely worth exploring. But yeah, I don't remember who did that quote. The way out is via the door. Why is it no one chooses this method? It's like, it can be damn hard, can't it? But sometimes it's just falling in love and you'll follow someone anywhere, or, you know, it's just getting that moment, isn't it? Or whatever it is, whatever the carrot is, the carrot or the stick. I don't know.
Here we get more. Oh. Guilt for leaving colleagues in the shit.
Well, that's guilt, isn't it? I don't know. I'm sure they'll get over it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, I don't know your situation, but yeah, guilt can often be, we can often use that as an excuse too, can't we? We start to justify ourselves, why we're doing what we should, because I should, out of duty. We get all these moral reasons why we should remain where we are, you know. But like, it's not about that, is it? I mean, it's, your body will rebel against that too, because, you know, you need to hear what that wants, you know. And if you're negating everything that's in the body, all your emotions, of course your body's gonna possibly turn on you too, because it doesn't really like being stuck, you know, as you know.
He said, no wife or kids of my own, but yes, a fear is there. Thanks, Don.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Somebody else says, I love the books. Any favorites? Favorite books you can recommend?
To read on non-duality,
Well, they see all the books behind you, so I think they're just saying,
Richard,
do you have a favorite that you can suggest?
I think I saw Plexus by Henry Miller here. This is Richard Sylvester's book case, actually. So Plexus. I recommend Henry. No, it's nothing to do with non-duality. Actually, it might be mentioned in there, but yeah. What would you recommend? I recommend staying away from non-duality books. No.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Oh wow. Yeah, I do stay away from that. It depends on the person what I would recommend and what they're interested in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
But if it's let's see, it's a general. It just says love the books. Any favorites?
My books are all in boxes.
Richard says I recommend the relevance of bliss. Relevance of bliss.
Oh, right, never
I
heard of it.
never, neither have I. What about Flim Flam?
So no,
That sounds good.
no
What's
opinion.
Flim Flam?
No idea. I need to ask Richard Sylvester.
Well,
Tell
are
you
they
about
reading books?
flexes. There's plenty
Oh,
of
I
books
see
there.
it. I see it above your head. Yeah, Flim
Right,
Flam. I
yeah,
can
well,
see it. Yeah, I see it now.
There's Dawkins. Right, fuck.
Oh, wow, they're reading all the books, the titles of the books. It must have good cameras, good picture there. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, we got a couple in the chat here. Nope, that was it. The book recommendation.
Yeah, I would recommend just like, yeah, just ignoring people's recommendations. They're like, people's book recommendations are like people recommending dates for you. Like, you're just like, who do you think I am? Like, I don't know. People get it really wrong, but sometimes it can. Okay, so non-duality. It's if you've just come to it, you might want something quite gentle, might you want something quite easy, but or you want to go in for I am that and the surrogate data, the kind of hardcore tags. I don't know, but yeah. So
Yeah, I got a copy of that right here, actually.
everybody's got it.
This
Everybody's got that.
This is my, just to show you how old it is.
Oh, okay, that's been read. That's
It's pretty beat up. But yeah, I had highlights. I think. Yeah. See, like, I went into it back in the day.
Okay.
I'm ripping the shit out of it now. But yeah, this is 20 years old. For what it's worth, but doesn't matter. I got this thing,
Horse and Miracles.
but I mean, I don't recommend them. Okay, Richard just keeps telling us about this book. You can come on the thing if you want. And then, okay, so there's an angry fellow on the YouTube chat. If you want to hear from him.
Angry?
I call him the angry fellow. Yeah, he says, I get angry about just a YouTube video. It doesn't matter, just what's happening.
Oh, I'm not sure. Well, so you should, like, it's really annoying. I think to the mind it sounds smug. It can sound really smug as well, can't it? Never mind.
What's that? You non-duality?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sure, I don't blame him. I don't mind him. That's why I'm kind of joking with him, but I don't take it personal. But yeah, he was saying earlier we're contradicting ourselves and all this kind of stuff.
Well, it's wonderful because you can do that with this, which makes it easy to speak about in a way, can't you? You can endlessly contradict yourself because it is that so paradoxical, and it's never one thing. It just never is. You say one thing, like relative and absolute. I mean, you can take two positions on it, even though there is only oneness. So, so yeah, I would be angry. No, I would be really pissed off. Also, if somebody tells you there's nothing you can do, I mean, that's just frustrating. It should be, and not that should be angry, because some people, they just love hearing the freedom of that message. It can be heard anyway. That's probably quite common, like the anger response. I know other people who've been angry listening to it. So, yeah, I'm sure somebody else, like a spiritual teacher, would say something like the anger will burn through your, I don't know, whatever, your defenses or something, and be the way to this or something. I don't know.
He says smug and nonsensical.
Well, it is nonsensical because it's beyond the mind, isn't it? So it's mystical, it's paradoxical. Yeah, it's not meant to make sense. It bypasses the mind, doesn't it? So it's experiential in a sense, but there's no one to experience that.
And he said oneness when there is no one.
Yeah, we're here talking about it. The human experience remains valid. I mean, remains the same. I mean, it's just that's all there is, really. Human experience and whatever's arising. And
Somebody's looking for the link. Well, he's basically saying all we talk about is me, and then we say there's no me.
yeah, but I just want to talk normally. Let me talk normally. Yeah. I suppose that could be confusing for someone. Because I mean, okay, so you know that's how you talk, like wake or not, that's how you talk, right? And if you don't talk like that, you're probably not awake. You're probably pretending to be awake or something, or just a seeker, or yeah. So it's just a bit exhausting going around going no me, and also life goes on as well, and there is a me here. There really is, and then but there's no. That's not who I am, if you know what I mean. And the identity isn't. There is just the oneness, but you know, and there's no location in that. There's no sense of there being someone in here, like. But the same, you know, the same personalities here, the same desires, the same, you know, motivations. Everything's the same, really, and different in subtle and less subtle ways. So. It's just easier to talk about it like that rather than to encourage a kind of disassociation as well, because it kind of, not that I'm trying to encourage or discourage, but it's just easier. It's just more natural. It's just, don't you think, Walter? Like, just talk normally.
Yes, absolutely. Well, obviously, yeah, you and I have a chat after this, and then we don't talk about no me's or there's no one here, or we don't say here. We use personal pronouns. We speak, you know, just like normal people do. It's not, yeah, I think some of that language is just a teaching tool. I think it's a way to point at something. And I think it has some usefulness, you know, as a way to describe what non-duality is. But people who talk about non-duality don't talk about non-duality unless they're in a non-duality meeting. Really.
Yeah, it's not a conversation you have. You don't talk about non-duality, do you? It's a,
Not really, unless somebody asks me. But we have a question here about astrology, if you want to take it. It says, hey, what do you think about astrology? And if it has any influence on your awakening? For instance, I'm in Aries, which is a fire sign, and known for being quite angry. And I always felt anger driven. But suppressed a lot of the anger, which is being released now. And it's difficult to navigate that.
no, it makes no sense. I to be honest, I know very little about astrology. I know people who are very into it and find it very powerful. So I don't want to comment on that. Like, works for you, and it can work very well with psychological stuff for some people. But have you any opinion on astrology?
Not astrology.
Okay.
I don't have any thoughts on astrology, honestly. And the angry fella is saying, stop kidding yourselves.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't know how to respond to stuff like that, Don. Do you?
No, well, probably saying it in an angry way.
Should I just ignore his comments, or I don't know? But you know what? I probably deserve it. Go ahead, troll me all you want. I probably have it coming somehow. Anyway, somebody has we have two hand raised. Let's go, Danny. We haven't heard from Danny yet. And then Betty after Danny, okay? Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm glad I could make it. Nice to see you guys.
Oh, hi.
To connect. Hi, Dawn and Walter. Yeah, just got home from work and it was pretty good timing. But Well, Walter, I did want to ask, would like to talk to, well, both of you. I feel like I would talk to you one-on-one or something. Because a lot of the stuff, I mean, you know, it's kind of personal, I guess. It's not, other people aren't that interested. But also with the alcohol stuff, Walter, like I did 3 years in February. But anyway, there's just a lot of different things. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but all right. So one thing I will say as far as the non-duality, you know, is like I only really listened to the uncompromising message, you know. Richard and Tony and of course Andreas and Jim. I saw Andreas in New York. I live in the New York area. But I like what you guys like are, I mean, Dawn, I think that the stuff that you're talking about, it's like more expansive, and like I can relate to what you're saying, because my thing here is like I think I really get that there's nobody here because of an experience I had 25 years ago, and then finding Tony's message. But then, of course, that just led to a lot of continuing to drink and drink more. And like, who's gonna stop? Who's gonna stop? So if the highest truth is that there's nobody here that can do anything, because there is nobody, that got used here for caused a lot of suffering. And then eventually, you know, I was able to finally, I got fed up enough to where I got help and actually took the program seriously, the 12-step program. But this stuff can be really difficult if you're, because I'm very mental oriented, so I'm up in my head most of the time, and it's like, there is nobody here. Okay, it seems like there is. It seems like there's somebody here that has free will and choice, even though that isn't really true. It seems to be true. So then why not just go for that? You know, if there's certain desires that I have, like to have a mate, or to have, you know what, you know, or to, I mean, I'm not one to drink, but there are things like get more money, have a better job, more fulfilling. But then this whole non-duality, this whole thing that it's like water coming down on it. It's like, well, who's going to do that? And even if I could do that, isn't that just going to lead to, you know, it's not going to be leading to fulfillment. Nothing leads to fulfillment. So why even try that? You know what I mean? So it's all this mental stuff that just goes on in my head. And, you know, unfortunately, I really do believe that there's nobody here because of the experience I had. And I don't, that's why it's hard for me to listen to. I mean, it doesn't even, listening to somebody like Eckhart Tolle, it doesn't even get under my skin. I know they don't really know what they're talking about. Sailor Bob, awareness teachings. All right, so when I met Tony, I eventually could cast them away and say, I don't have to listen to them anymore. I don't have to try that stuff anymore, awareness. Because if you listen to Tony and Jim, and they'll speak about awareness drops away as well. So it's not about finding awareness or being in awareness. So I don't know if all this makes sense, but that's just kind of what I wanted to say to you guys. And, you know, Dawn, I'm not exactly sure where you're going with this. I could easily talk. I could talk to you a lot because I liked you right away from, even though you seem like maybe saying a little something different, but no negativity. I would like to talk to you and stuff, and, you know, maybe flesh some of this stuff out, but also like the psychological work. I mean, me personally, I don't know that there's probably a lot that I haven't dealt with, but I don't know that I want to. You know, it's like because of this, the me eventually, and I'm also okay with, hey man, it may stay like this. I had that experience 25 years ago now, long time ago. It may just, I mean, the me came back apparently, and maybe this is what's going on the rest of the life here. Maybe so. I know there's nothing I can do. The good news is nothing I have to do, or nothing I can do to drop the me, to drop the illusion. Nothing I can do. Nothing I have to do either. So, but that just always gets me back to, well, you know, maybe just some of these desires, some of these things, not to try to fulfill myself, but maybe it really is like, maybe whatever I do in that direction is ultimately trying to fulfill myself, and there is no need for that. So anyway, I know I said a lot, but that's just where I'm at. But I do like what you guys, you know, are talking about, and Walter, there's things I could talk to you about with the alcoholism. And, when I heard you did drink occasionally, you wake up with a hangover, like right away, I started to think, oh, well, is that possible for me? But, I don't really have any illusions like that. Like, I've been down that path, that painful path that it's like, I don't want to walk into a bar and drink because I know I'm going to want more. Even if even if I don't really know that, I assume I'm going to want more. So why start? Plus, if I did drink, it's going to bring back tremendous amount of negative emotions and self-shame, all that shit that's going to go on. So, but anyway, I just wanted to let you guys let to know me a little bit. But maybe we can, I don't know how often I can make the Monday meeting, but anyway.
Thank you, Danny. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, when I share, it's just my personal story, for what it's worth, and certainly no recommendations on what anyone should do. But I really appreciate what you had to say.
Sure. Yes.
Um,
I mean, I also could ask you, like, you've interviewed a lot of people, and some people like seem a little off the rocker. Let me say that. One guy seems like, I'm not sure if he's a little off the rocker or he's a usual guest, or if he's, but I'm not sure what he's saying exactly. But it seems like you're interviewing many, many different people. And so you're getting a lot of, I mean, do you have a sense that you're interviewing some of these people and they're not really talking nothing, really, they're not talking about not this non-duality, really, although that's everything. But I mean, you interview a lot of people, so I guess you're just curious, right? I mean, you're not looking for anything from them.
no, I think non-duality is an interesting subject to explore, and this seems to be different approaches to it, or however you want to say that, I don't know. You find it interesting or no? Yeah.
Well, I do. Yeah, I mean, I find the subject
Just a matter of interest. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to seek for anything to listen to a podcast. You don't have to
but
be
it does seem
trying to
though
get
that
enlightenment out of it, or that there's going to be, trust me, there's no one's going to say anything that you're going to be, it's going to be like a magic pill in my podcast. I'm not selling anything like that. It's
no.
just like people having conversations about the subject of non-duality, which is,
Yeah.
that's it. No expectation.
But do you find that, I mean, like, it seems like, because when I'm in a meeting with Jim and I'm not trying to compare, but it's all I have to really do. Like, they don't really entertain a lot of, it seems like there's stuff
They
out.
entertain stuff. Believe me, they entertain a lot of things.
Okay. Well, that also I was going
They
to ask.
do. They do. It just matters what
Yeah,
you want to
certainly.
entertain. You want to entertain that there's a tiny child that has a sense of a me or doesn't have a sense of a me, or there's a person or not a person, or an individual or not an individual, or special energy. There's an energy in the room. That's a story. That's Tony Parsons. That's right out of his playbook. There's an energy, right?
Yeah. Well, they say
And there's a contracted energy. There's a this energy. There's a that energy. It's all a story. Nothing's happening. There's no one to experience an energy. There's nothing. There's nobody here.
no, yeah, I hear you. I think like Tony.
So I'm just saying, you want to attach a special meaning and purpose to an uncompromising message versus a so-called compromising message. That's still duality.
Yeah, and I hear you.
It's favoring one part of
some
the
of it's
dream over another
confusing.
part of the dream.
Some of it used
It's
to
all a
confuse
dream.
me. Some of it used to confuse me a lot when I would hear, like, because I spent a week with Gangaji 20 years ago, and look, I loved her. She was a what I thought was an incredible spiritual teacher and clarity and all that. But then and then I meet Tony, and you hear Gangaji saying, "Well, to be vigilant." And then you hear Tony being, well, I'm saying Tony because he was the first one to come out with this. Now there's a lot of other people.
Yeah, there's no one to be vigilant. Of
Well,
course.
who's going to be vigilant? There's nobody to be vigilant. So then isn't that a
but have you
limitation?
ever seen apparent vigilance?
Right, but it's not going to lead to awakening. Is my point. It's not going to lead to.
You can't lead to awakening.
Right, nothing can lead to it.
There's no one to awaken. This is all there is this.
So
It's apparent conversation. But that's obvious. You don't need Tony Parsons to tell you that.
right.
And there's no special energy in his meetings, nor is there in mine. And because there is no my meeting.
Right.
There is no you, there's no me. There's just what
Yeah.
happened.
Most
No
of
one.
us, so I mean, like you guys that don't, maybe the me has certainly dropped away, or it's not there happening anymore. The thing that isn't real isn't happening anymore. Here, it seems like it is.
But there's nothing happening to not happen anymore. There's just what's appearing in this moment, and there's no moment. There's just that thought that just appeared in your mind. And there's no your mind. There's no mind. But you see, you could talk like this all day, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm just saying, there's no specialness to one message or another message. See?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to get me anywhere, that like I'm not.
Right, but I'm saying also talking about mindfulness will not get you anywhere. It's just equal value as the uncompromising message.
Well, it seems like those things, if you play around with them, they would help. Again, making the dream. This is where I throw water on this because it's like making the dream better. And then I wasn't trying to make the dream better. I was trying to wake up from the dream. Then learn you can't wake up from it. Oh, I don't want to make it better. But that's not really true. I guess I do. I do.
Of course you do.
The dream better.
Why
But then
wouldn't
why
you
not?
want a
But see,
better
you can
dream?
go overboard if you start getting all kinds of. If I start throwing alcohol down, that makes it seem better. That makes the dream seem better for the night. Then that causes addiction, causes lots of problems. So, but no, I hear you. Not to go too deep. I mean, we can. I can certainly talk to you guys on the side.
But it would be the same if you had cancer as if you have alcoholism, right? I mean, nobody chose to have that.
Right.
Nobody's choosing a particular treatment program to follow to deal with that, or to, maybe have a better apparent future,
No, but you wouldn't want to tell them that, hey, I'm going to tell you what to do here, but you have no choice whether to do it or not. You wouldn't want your doctor to say that to you. Of course, we wouldn't say that to people.
But we're in the
If they weren't in
context
this
of
meeting, we
a
wouldn't be saying that.
non-duality meeting here. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. No, I'm confused. Yeah, but it's this thing is it seems like I do have choice. You know what I mean, right? So how do we deal with that? It seems like I do have choice here. It seems like I do, even though this study came out in the British Journal and all that stuff is true. Ultimately, it don't. But it seems like I do.
Yeah. Well, that's why I call it illusion, or
Yeah.
it's an appearance of choice.
Well, Gangaji used to say, if choice appears, make a choice. But she was definitely directing things to the individual, like speaking to an individual. Which I don't listen to her anymore. I loved her, but I don't listen to her anymore because I don't think she has the complete, understanding, if you want.
Well, I think that was my point earlier. Was I was being a little cheeky about it, but there's there's no ultimate authority. You're not going to find it.
Good. No, that's good. Yeah, because like even if-
Nobody knows.
I mean, look, let me ask you, do you have, do you have a sense that you could choose to do something like, even if you did, like, do you edit yourself and say, oh, I should have done this, shouldn't have done that, but there's no real somebody in there anymore
Those
that's,
thoughts arise, absolutely, yeah. But I don't think there's anyone that has any choice to
yeah, so that makes,
have those thoughts, you know? But
no,
anyway,
but just-
we're in overtime, but it was a pleasure chatting with you.
absolutely.
But I'm going to pass the mic to Don, who will bring this to a close.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. And we'll see you next week at same time, 7 o'clock British Summer Time, and I don't know what it is, 2 o'clock ET Eastern Time, I think. I don't know what it is, but yeah, thanks for coming. That's all I got to say. So.
Thank you.